Hey listeners, welcome to another episode of All Consuming Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about an album that is worthy of being Album of the Year, Dominion by War of Ages. But before we get started, I wanted to thank our patrons, all of our patrons, no matter what tier you're in. And for those that bought Tyler and I some coffee, and those that bought yourself a mug, here's your shout out. So thank you, Daniel, Christian. Oh, and Christian, I sent some stickers your way like a week or so ago. I hope you got them. Adam, Heavy Metal Prophet, I Did It for the Mug, and Trey. We appreciate you guys. And on this episode, we're actually going to do something different. Again, I feel like I'm always saying we're doing something different. If you're a patron, you're going to get the whole episode, all 10 tracks, with no advertisements, commercials, whatever. We thought it would be better to get one big one than having, the episode and then like a bonus episode that has all the other tracks on it. So that way it's kind of one long episode. So let us know what you think about that. So with that, let's jump into our deep dive on Dominion. Well, hey Tyler.
What's up, dude?
How you doing? Long time no see.
I feel like we start every episode with, hey, it's been a minute. How's it going?
Well, part of it is because it's true. Like, we don't see each other except when we record. Otherwise, we're just texting.
Bro, I've been in your city multiple times in like a month.
And how many times have you seen me?
Once.
When?
When I came for for the football game in October, and we went to Riverfront.
Oh,
and
we went to that Cochinito's taco place. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Was that like a month ago?
Roughly, yeah.
Dude,
a little bit over.
Feels like forever ago.
I know. Yeah, and then we just came back. Our football team came back like last week.
Yeah.
And it was a Thursday, so you're
saw
like,
the picture,
not
I was
happening.
Like, nice city. What's that?
I know. I sent the picture, and you're like, what's this supposed to be?
That's your city, Gary.
Why are you texting me?
I didn't know. I was like, is this Yakima? It's like, what is he trying to show me?
Yeah.
Well, cool. So the last time we got together for podcast talk, we got to do the Furnace Fest thing.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And you know what's funny about that? So I got a shirt in the mail or whatever. Like, I ordered this thing from Emery, the gift box thing, and I got this shirt that said, I heart Emery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so Bobby, who is on that episode, he has a daughter named Emery. And I was like, I'm not wearing this shirt in public. And I was like, hey, do you want this? And he's like, sure, I have a Holy Name shirt that doesn't fit me. You want to swap?
Oh, that's
so
cool.
we just mailed each other shirts, Arkansas to Washington, and the shirt came in this week.
And you got it, and it fits?
I haven't tried it on.
That's so cool, though.
But it's my size, so I'm gonna wear it to a kid's birthday party on Friday. It's the back of it is just like wrapped in thorns, and it has like the Creed lyrics on it.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So, and the front's just like a tiny skull.
I wore my Holy Name shirt. I might have said this, but I wore my Holy Name shirt to church, and it just is like literally the cross, the Orthodox cross, and has Holy Name on the sleeves. It's a long sleeve tee. And my pastor came up to me with a purpose and was like, "Hey, get that Eastern Orthodox stuff out of here." But obviously he was obviously joking, But
does he know about Holy Name or?
He does. His I don't know if I've told you this, but his daughter, who's in middle school, listens to our episodes on the regular. She's really
she's got to wait monthly for us to drop stuff.
No, but she does, and so
That's cool.
Of course, yeah, she's a big Demon Hunter fan, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Which is cool. So, for me, fall's the busiest time. School starts, football especially is going. And so, it's a breath of fresh air to finally not have football, to have some free time. And so recently we do this kind of monthly, bi-monthly, whenever we can type of get together with the men of our church, probably a lot of churches do. And so we went to this one food truck place we have in Tri-Cities, and it's
how many guys is this?
On a good turnout, it's 15, 20, probably 20.
Okay. Yeah.
And when there's one food truck place, it's all the food trucks come here, and there's this center area that's enclosed. It's a pretty cool spot. You can go, and pick whatever food. So we went there and we met up and, just hanging out, talking, and it was really awesome. It was cool because there was a ton of people that came, but we're sitting there, right, and just talking church, talking life, and all of a sudden, this is the weird, it's out of a movie, sort of. I can't even explain it. But, this, 3-4 people, pull up, and they have, a speaker, right? Their own little speaker. and a microphone.
What,
And
like
they say,
a little pill thing, like
no, like an actual like a
boombox?
no, like a speaker, like you're gonna play music into a crowd, like a legit
like a big old like monitor thing.
Monitor,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
And this lady gets on and she's like, welcome to spoken word poetry night. And we've got some stuff we want to share with you guys. This is a safe spot for everybody, no matter what you believe. Or
You're like, I didn't agree to that.
and we're all like looking at each other like we know what's about to happen, right?
Uh-huh.
There's and this is like a place where like little kids are running around and stuff, and so it's like a family environment, right?
Yeah.
And these poems, like they're good. Like don't get me wrong, they're just like heartfelt, super deep, a lot of hurt in these people's life. Like what they talk about, and some words that I would like be like if my kids were around, if like I don't want to hear them say that, but like like super deep, and the conversation, everything just stopped. We were telling jokes. Like you don't want to be laughing when people are talking about the things that are happening in their life. So they look out and they see you giggling about something,
Mm-hmm.
And so our conversation stopped. We're watching what's going on. And after this first lady that finishes, we clap, and it was a really good, like heartfelt, like super somber, poem. And so it's open mic, and they're like, anyone else have something they want to share? And they open it up to everybody, and I'm not going up there. I don't want to be like, what's that movie?
I was
like,
hoping you did.
No,
like some slam poetry.
Cynthia, Jesus died for my Cynthia, what movie is that off of?
I don't know, dude.
Realize. Anyway, sorry. But anyways,
I know the South Park version of that.
So like it's awkward for like I can't even like it was probably only 2 minutes, but the silence was like deafening, and this old lady had to be like 70, 80 years old. Walks up, takes the mic, and like the people that are putting this on are like, "Oh, okay, here we go. We got a lady's gonna do a poem."
Wow.
And she was like, she looked at her crew and she was like, "Roses are red, violets are blue. Happy birthday to whoever was with her." And everyone like was like super like clapping for that, And it was like so awkward. The people that put on the poetry thing were like, obviously they were upset because that's not what they were trying to go for. Mm-hmm. And eventually they just like packed it up and left. But it was so weird.
Only one person did the poetry?
No, there was another one, but it was so hard because these people come to like just enjoy, a burger.
Was there a sign up or something that said that, poetry night?
Maybe somewhere.
Or these people just like pull up in random spots, set up the speaker.
They could be random. Right. And so, but all these people are just there with their families, like enjoying a meal. And now you hear about
we
the
should
hurt.
do that. We could pull up and be like, "Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our Deathcore 101."
No, we're going to do our podcast live. Welcome to All Consuming Podcast Live. At Chuck E. Cheese. And you will listen to what we're going to do. It just was like the wrong place, Like you're not going to want to go there and do that. And so eventually they left, and we were like, we didn't want to say like in our mind, like, good, they left. But it was like, good, they left,
Whew. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that was wild. But yeah, it's good to hang out with church members again, and good to hang out with buddies, and hopefully record more frequently with you and do all that good stuff.
Yeah. So with that, should we get to what we're here for?
Oh, I'm stoked. Let's do it.
So today we're doing War of Ages, and War of Ages has a sweet spot for us because our podcast is named after one of their songs. Mm-hmm. Now we have to change the name of our podcast to like Dominion podcast or like, but we're doing the new album Dominion.
Yeah.
And pretty stoked to talk about it. I'm trying to decide how to begin, how about just like Tyler, what are your overall thoughts? Like, the album was announced like a month before it dropped, right? Like August to September. So it's like, it came out fast. And so there wasn't like this super long build up, and I don't know, what were your thoughts?
Well, I remember when Dominus was released, the single, and I was so stoked because I don't know if this makes sense, but it is the most War of Ages songs I've heard in a long time. Like, it seems like if you were to take a song from Eternal or whatever, and then like turn it up a couple extra notches. Like that's what I felt Dominus was. It was so good. It's like metalcore. It feels kind of like, to me, even like old school metalcore, but with like a breakdown to me that feels like the hardcore that I love at the end. And I was like, this is the perfect meld of everything I want, you know? And then Armageddon came too, and I was like, this is different. I enjoy it. So I was super stoked when I heard those 2 singles. And I know they dropped maybe 2 more.
Yeah, they dropped those 2 like August 11th.
Yeah.
Which I love, 2 at a time, because
awesome.
You get one and it's
Basically
kind
an
of
EP.
like you're like, I don't know how to react to one.
Yeah.
They could, is this the middle of the road? They could go anywhere, but when they give you 2 songs, you're like, oh, here's the heavy. Oh, this one's kind of hardcore.
Yeah.
And then they did Laodicea. Is that how we're saying it today?
Oh yeah.
August 25th, and then like just the week before it released, right? Was Apocalypsis on September 6th. So I love that it was like 4 singles in a month. And from the announcement that the album even exists, it came out fast. Yeah. So like hype was high. Everyone's like, "What?" We had no idea it was coming. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, here's some singles. You're like, sweet. At this rate, probably March or April of next year. And then they're like, released in 28 days, and you're like, what? This is nuts.
That's how it should be too.
Yeah, I love that. Right. I'm very happy to listen to the whole album when it's like that.
Right.
When like Memphis May Fire releases 9 singles and the full thing releases in like a year and a half, you're just like, by the time it's out, you're like, I've heard this.
Yeah. And sometimes we feel like we talk about that single, the first one that was released, and we're like, well, I mean, this was like technically not this year or whatever, and it's like feels so weird. But the way they did it, for sure, it felt fresh, and I do love that they dropped 2 right away. Mm-hmm. I don't know the reasoning behind that, but and they were 2 like different songs.
Yeah,
and so I think to me that was pretty sweet. It got me on board, and the album, when it did drop, like it didn't disappoint. Mm-hmm. Really good, start to finish, really awesome. What you get when it comes to lyrics from War of Ages. It's going to be just on point. Absolutely love it. Yep. When there's bands we talk about on this podcast where it's like, you dig and you try to find it through a Christian lens, like maybe we can see what they're talking about, if it's referencing the Bible or God. You don't have to do that with War of Ages because it's really just biblical.
Yeah. It cracks me up when, sometimes on like Facebook groups, I hope people are trolling. And they're like, hey, I just got into Christian metal. Is War of Ages Christian?
Yeah.
And it's like, have you listened to one song?
No.
You could pick any song. Like, how could you ask this question?
Well, it is hard sometimes, Gary, to understand the lyrics when people are screaming. Like, let's be real. I had this issue just a couple days ago, right? I text. So I'm driving to work early in the morning, the day that the new Impending Doom single releases. What's it called?
Eternal.
I just didn't want to say that because I was thinking of War of Ages, but Eternal. And there's a part to where I thought Brooke said
the F word.
The F word. You want to F with me or something like that.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my gosh, no way. And I played it over and over. And
you like text me at like 7:20. I'm like getting out of bed. And I'm like, man, I haven't listened, okay? Just hold on. But I listened with my boys dropping them off to school, and I turned it up super loud. Listened to the whole thing, and I'm like, I didn't hear any part that could have been mistaken. And I like 3 times in, and then finally I hear like, you want to fight with me. And I was like, oh, texting you like, no, Tyler, I got it right away, you idiot.
Yeah, and it's weird that popped up, and like, and then, like, you said it, and I could have just not been an idiot and just looked up the lyrics that are there.
Dude, but it just dropped.
But I literally Googled the lyrics, like, after you text me, and I felt like a Dumbo, and they're there.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, and so I didn't really appreciate your response, though. Gary texts me, like, he's like, no, it says fight with me. And he's like, if you maybe would stop listening to Taylor Swift, you wouldn't think that everything in a song is an F-bomb because she drops F-bombs all the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
That's not verbatim, but that is about what I said. Yeah.
and then you just kept texting Taylor hate memes repetitively
No, some of
throughout
those
the
were
day.
great. Some of those were great.
They were all the same meme.
Which one?
You sent the same meme.
Which
like
one was it?
12 times. It's the American Psycho pointing at 1989.
Like my phone sent it to you a bunch of times?
At least 12. I thought you were trolling me so hard.
No.
I swear, dude. Yeah, I swear.
No way, dude.
I'll show you.
Look.
I told my wife, I was like, he's trolling me so hard right now.
Here's my
Because-
text of it. I have one.
So the joke is Taylor Swift, after re-releasing a decade-old album with literally zero changes, pointing at it like there's zero changes. And I was like, he's trolling me because he just sent it
Dude, that's so
that
lame.
many times at me.
Sorry, I didn't know my phone did that.
And I was like,
You can blame Mint. We just switched to Mint. So.
oh, okay. I blame Mint.
All right.
Well, it was better when I was blaming you because I thought you were going like deep into this like Taylor hate stuff.
No, but I'm okay that my phone chose to do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to rewind a little and get back on track. So we went down this rabbit hole because you're saying that when War of Ages releases a song or releases an album, as Christians, like, there's like I'm going to use the word pedigree here. Like, we know this release will be up to par, right?
100%.
Like, it's going to be what we expect. We know it will be safe, and we don't have to be like, well, hold on, it's a new, like, Silent Planet. We got to check the lyrics. Are there any swear words? Is this okay for my kids to hear? Like, you know, we have to put our guard up when listening to some bands, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like with War of Ages, it's just like, you know, here's a bunch of awesome stuff. Go at it, and it's just woohoo.
Right, and we don't. I mean, most of the bands we talk about. Let's be honest. Most of the bands we talk about on this podcast are those bands that are like not technically, like, don't say they're Christian bands, but they have Christians or they're in the scene. Like, that's a lot of the bands we talk about, and we enjoy them a ton, right? Like, we really do like those. But there's just something when it comes to like bands like War of Ages. You know, I think of bands like For Today, where it was like, this is like, it's part of their mission as Christians, I feel, is the band.
Yep.
You know? And so it's really cool to see. And it's awesome when people like you see online are stoked for it and ready. And there were so many people that were stoked for this.
Yep. So let's jump into some of the details. So facts. This is their 10th studio album.
Dang.
Nuts, right? Like Demon Hunter just released their 11th, if that puts you at a number. But this was released September 15th, 2023 on Face Down. They've been on Face Down for nearly their whole lives.
Yeah.
It's produced by their guitarist, Jack Daniels. And it's the last album that features their drummer, Caleb Lubchow, right? He passed away this year, or actually last year in 2022, right?
I'm not sure of the date, but passed away before this was released.
Yep, and the lineup hasn't changed since their previous EP. So you got Leroy Hamp on lead vocals, Steve Brown on lead guitar. Those two dudes have been there forever.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels on rhythm guitar, and he produced it.
Which is awesome, yeah.
Yep. And Elisha Mullins on bass, and Caleb Lubchow on drums.
Yeah.
Sweet. So that's pretty much all the facts. You know, there's not much to it. The lineup hasn't changed like crazy. I hope that they like tour or do something. I know I've heard him say on social medias and stuff that like they're kind of just staying regional. They're not really planning on hitting up a big tour or anything, but which kind of sucks when you live 1,000 miles away from them. I mean, when's the last time you saw War of Ages?
I mean, I've only seen them once.
Same. At As I Lay Dying tour.
As I Lay Dying, Demon Hunter, War of Ages.
And Bless the Fall.
And Bless the Fall. Just, that was so good.
That was a good
and
time.
That was like in the time, right? Like, you know, you put your that meme of Vince McMahon crying. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. And it was like the Conviction song when it talks about just, you know, talk about the suicide and it's just crying. Like, I was thinking like that meme should be like, son, tell me what metalcore was like in the early 2000s, you know, or 2010s. And like he's just crying, like, you know, that type of deal, because that was it, man. That was like the time to be in the heavy music, especially metalcore. Like, it was just flying and it was awesome.
Yep.
And that was the last time I saw him, which is crazy.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of songs on the album. Do you have anything to say before we jump in?
I think I just want to say big props in a world of EPs. We got an LP. I just think that I love that bands are still doing full albums. And I think that's really cool. I don't know if that even fits, but
I also think it's really cool that I got the vinyl the week it was released. Or really close. Oh, actually, no, I got it last week. So a month after it released. Which is awesome. Usually I get it way later.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right.
Let's jump in, dude.
So before we get started, I just wanted to add that just the picture of this album, right? Even just the album art, right? Which is amazing, done by Dave Quiggle. He doesn't really do album art anymore, so it's really awesome to see him do that kind of stuff again. But the whole album is basically the end times. It's about the 4 horsemen from Revelations. And there's 4 songs in the album where each one is about one of the horsemen. And the other songs are kind of just end times Revelation stuff. And, we'll get to that when we get to them. But I think it was a really fun, taking notes on this, reading Revelations and being oh, that's where he got that line from. Oh, that's straight from the Bible, just to kind of tie the two together. So I think that's really awesome that we have a Revelations-y. I think it's a very common theme in music, and especially metalcore and stuff, is to do a
end times,
Judgment Days, kind of an album. But okay,
yeah. Hey, here's a hot take before we move on.
Sure.
I don't know if we're supposed to read Revelation as an end times book.
That is not a hot take. That is a hotly debated topic.
Well, I'm just saying the take's kind of spicy.
So I think that Revelations should be looked at as a past present for John and a future look of Jesus's coming, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think there's a lot of references that point to Old Testament things, and people quickly and easily go, oh, what Russia's doing to Ukraine. Oh, and totally taking things out of context. Although we live in a world where history repeats itself, and there are probably correlations, but the Bible is not. The book of Revelations is often used as a verbatim of what's to be expected in the future.
Right. And
there's tons of opinions and views because there's no answer, right?
No, there's not.
We don't know.
But there's
when these things will happen, how they have happened, if they have. So there's lots of different opinions and views. Historians, theologians, atheists, tons of people use this book to try to say what it means, and it's really hard. And I know what Leroy believes based on what he wrote in his lyrics, and that's what we are going to focus on. I am not going to say what I think this horseman means. Yeah, I'm going to just echo what the song.
For sure, I think that's kind of the point. Is this idea of this isn't an album, and it's not what I think we both would do is trying to create this checklist of here's the end times. If this happens, then that happens. It's Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
and he's pointing
chart.
at the chart and all
got
these
all
things
the strings attached and the pins.
That's not how I know that it's read in this album, and it's not how I read it. There's a lot that obviously you just take away even from these songs, and you take away about the Christian life, right? And it obviously does point to your eschatology and stuff like that, but overall it might be a little dangerous just to read it and trying to associate it, like you said, with Russia and Ukraine and the president of the United States,
especially
and all
the
this,
Israel and Gaza and Palestine stuff.
Right, that. I don't think that's what we're supposed to do. I think we're supposed to read this from a different lens. So I do like that we're prefacing this and saying this is coming. This is what we're going to read from the lyrics of this album. It's not necessarily fully what we believe unless we say we believe it.
Yep.
Cool.
And I hope we don't go down too many rabbit trails with this.
Yeah, I don't think we will.
All right, so first song is called Famine. So this song starts off depicting the Lamb, Jesus, opening the third seal. Why we start with the third horseman on an album? Like, my OCD, it's not even OCD. I just wished that it was like, the first horseman, the first seal, the second horseman. But whatever. We're going out of order. Someone hit shuffle and released the album. So this is one of the four horsemen. It is the third seal. None of the horsemen actually have names, but like the world, like I was saying before, everyone wants to analyze and like pick apart who are these four horsemen and what do they mean. And so they've been given names over time. Only one of the horsemen actually has a name from the Bible, but this one's name is Famine. It's a common name given to one of the four horsemen. And obviously he's associated with famine.
Yep.
Crazy. And he's the black horse that's carrying a scale. If you look at the album cover, he's got like this funky scale. And the scale's kind of interesting because it's actually not a scale for justice. It is a scale for the weight of grain and wages for a day.
Right.
So, it's like in the Bible it references like that people will have to use a day's wage, a days of work, to pay for a days of bread. So you can only pay for yourself and you have no excess money for anything else. Right.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'm going to go with that one. But this might be one of my favorite songs.
It's different.
Like, maybe like top 3. It might be number 1. We'll see by the end of the episode. But I love the weird guitar tone.
Me too, man.
Like, it's almost like, is that a guitar? Is that like a computer doing that? Because it's weird. But I don't know. I just like the way the song starts and it kicks off, with when he's talking about the beast opening, releasing the horseman, right? So the lamb opens the scroll, out comes a horseman from the beast, right? There's 4 beasts too, whatever. And so when he screams, hear the beast scream, I just love how he does that.
Yeah. No, that part is awesome. Yeah, I think like that riff, like especially like you're talking about, I think it is guitar, but it's just like low and the tone is so just like menacing. I don't know how to really explain it. I love the double
bass pedals with it.
Yeah.
Brum, brum, brum. Yeah,
it's so good. And so for me, like it is different than like it starts off the album is different than what I typically associate War of Ages with. Kind of a slower, like punchy riff, and it's awesome though. It's super heavy. Absolutely am here for it. I do like the vocals on this. I mean, I think the vocals on the entire album are pretty good, but I especially like it on this. I think there's more room for the vocals in Famine, if that makes sense.
You mean like he's not always just screaming?
Yes. Yeah, but
yeah, I think I think they did a good job at recording his voice on this. It sounds like his scream's got a bit of bite to it.
Yeah.
Kind of sharper. But, they also do that like background, I want to call it like, it's not really a group shout.
It kind of is.
I mean, yeah. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I guess it's a group shout. It's just one person though, it sounds like. Where they kind of like sing, but he's not nearly as loud as the screamer and he's kind of like echoing what he's saying.
Yeah.
But
like tonally, I just feel like when it's like like that to me sounds like guitar from like, this might sound weird, but like Slipknot or like that type of tone, or even like,
you mean like that pinch harmonic sounding like
no just like this, no not that part, like just the chunky like like I can't even
like the verses and stuff like after the chorus
just the riff of the song. It doesn't sound like metalcore,
it's
which
real well.
Is awesome. So I do enjoy this song. This was not a single, and you get to start the album with not a single, and so it was cool to be like, oh, okay, here we go.
And it's great.
Yes. Top 3 for you, for sure?
Yeah, I think so. I like that there's like this, like 3 minutes in, there's like this guitar solo thing where he like repeats the chorus. They're like, we are now on our own. But that's the second time he does that. I hear the beast scream. Yeah. And it's just that second time he says it and all the instruments like cut out. and it's like double vocals, right? I think it's his voice twice, or something
Right.
is different. And, you know, he's just like, hear the bee scream, and it's such a jam. It ends with like this thick, groovy, like, it just, I mean, that's the first song, and it's like a new album, and you already like the first 4 singles. It's like, oh man, is there going to be a bad song on this album?
Right. Yeah. You know, I catch myself doing this a lot too. I don't know. Maybe not this song, but as we move forward, I'm always like trying to think of, oh, what does that sound like? It reminds me of a band. You know, it reminds me of this. It reminds me of this. I got to probably like reel it back and be like, it's probably sounds like War of Ages, and other bands are inspired by the metalcore of that era. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think I do that quite a bit because I was always trying to think like every song we were going through. Like,
Well, here, you want me to
That
jump on the
sounds
bandwagon with that?
yeah, do it.
I think the guitar work on this album reminds me heavily of Phineas's new album.
Oh yeah,
And I think both of these albums, the Phineas one and this one, like just the guitar work, I don't know if it's the tone or the speed or the tempo or whatever they're doing. It's just like that mid 2000s metalcore.
it is
right?
metalcore.
But the
yeah.
rest of it is like modern production, modern drums. You know, I just feel like these guitar solos and these chunky riffs are coming straight from old metalcore, and I just super love that.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say like Famine is like the metalcore song. Like,
I would. You got that running guitar tone. Like first minute of the song is like, yeah. When like he like, you know, the guitar's like doing this guitar riff fast and it stops and then he starts screaming, you know, you feel your life. And then
I mean, kind of. I feel like it's more like the modern where metalcore's gone. Like Dominus, the next song, like that to me is like metalcore.
okay. Well, hey,
On
you
that
ready to
note,
move on?
Yeah, on that note, I say we talk about the next song.
What is the next song, Tyler?
The next song we're going to talk about is Dominus.
So on this song, I noticed that a lot of the song names are either horseman names or they're like Latin or Greek. So this one, Dominus, is Latin. And a lot of us know the word, right? I mean, it means owner, master, ruler, or lord. And, you know, this song was this first single. It's not, I mean, 2 singles dropped, but it was the one at the top and everyone listened to it first. So that's the first single. And I love it. Like, it's such an epic worship song.
So good.
And I don't know if this is Revelation-y, you know? I mean, I guess it is because Revelation is about Jesus and you know, the second coming.
Yeah, for sure.
But, I mean, I usually don't say my favorite part of a song is the chorus, but I think the chorus makes this song.
Dude, it slaps. It's so good.
And it's clean vocals.
Yeah.
So,
This is what I'm talking about. Like this idea of like the metalcore, right? You've got this sweet, like fast, cool riff, you know, and then the verse is like, and then the chorus is like,
holy.
yeah, and then it goes back to the and then it finishes with a breakdown. You know, like that's like it.
Sure.
You know,
The
but
formula.
like War of Ages, like this is so War of Ages-y, like that guitar riff at the beginning. Oh my gosh, like that just throws you right back to the 2010s, you know. And obviously the chorus, I think you're 100% right. You will find yourself singing this outside of listening. You'll be in the grocery store and you're like, in the ways to come. You know, it's great, like obviously great lyrics that we have stuck in your head for sure because they're so worshipful. But man, it is awesome. It is what I love about metalcore, man. It's just so technical. The guitar works great. Vocals are awesome. You have a chorus that's catchy and just awesome. Probably my second favorite song on the album.
I think this one is my favorite. There's just a lot to like. Like the chunky ending, with thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Yeah. And you got this like dunna dunna dunna, like it's just nuts.
And it's like slow too.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, like that might not be typical metalcore, that type of breakdown where it just slows down and it's just like
For Today style.
Yeah, but it's not that type of like, kind of, I guess. But yeah.
But anyway, the other thing I really like about this. Yeah. So, lots of choruses, which means you got to do the chorus different ways. And like in the middle of the song, they also have like a classic War of Ages, like just guitar solo for almost a minute, maybe longer. Like it's like a big chunk of the song. But of course, at the end of that solo, you have to have this part where he's like kind of talking and explaining. So, he's like, Father in heaven, almost like he's rapping POD style,
Yeah.
And like that's such old War of Ages stuff. But he like does this rap thing that slowly gets louder until he's screaming, and then like right at the end, everything cuts out, and you get the chorus with just singing, no other instruments, and like it builds again to that big breakdown that we were just talking about. But I just love that like the whole song is so dynamic. Like if you just chose a 30-second snippet of randomly in this, like it's gonna sound like different songs all over the place. But I don't know. It's a fun ride, and lyrically, great to be stuck in your head. Great for your kids to be like, "Is this a Jesus song?" Yes, it is. You can hear. Good job. But yeah, I absolutely love like this kind of music right here.
Me too. It's what made me fall in love with the genre. So.
Yep.
But cool, man. Okay. On that note, move to the next song.
All right. So let's talk about the next song. Descriptions of it, and then looking up like who this horseman is, and in Revelations, and like I found more joy lyrically, I think. All right, so let's talk about the next song.
Move on to a happier song. Just kidding. Armageddon.
So before we begin, the word Armageddon. You ever thought about that? What does it mean? Where does it come from?
I think it's a movie with Bruce Willis and Liv Tyler.
Yeah, that's exactly what the song's referencing.
About an asteroid or something.
Yeah.
With a great song by Aerosmith.
So...
Okay.
No. So, Armageddon is a Hebrew word for Hill of Megiddo. And it's a real place. It's not, people use Armageddon, right? And it's typically like, the final battle, death. Here we go, the forces of heaven and hell fighting, right? That's Armageddon, the end of the world. But Armageddon is a real place. It's a Palestinian city, dun dun dun, on a pass that connects Egypt and Syria. So this location is the scene of a lot of battles throughout history, and even in more recent history, during World War I, there's a very pivotal battle that took place there. So it's a real place, and it's a common place to fight, right? It's a very strategic point.
That's the literal meaning of Armageddon. There is an actual literal meaning,
which in the Bible he says like the Hebrew word for Armageddon, like he actually says it like this. Yeah, Armageddon is often referred to as the final battle, between the forces of good and evil. Right. And I think that's where we're going with this. And I think that's because of the picture in the Revelation saying like there will be this battle at this place called the Armageddon, right? And this song is about, like, Revelation 16. There's 7 bowls that angels release out. Also, more wrath, right? It's not enough that we got horsemen. We have more wrath, and this comes in the form of bowls. And this song references nearly all of the bowls, kind of like plagues that happen. And it's super fun to, like, see the parts that, they wrote in. And I'm like, oh, that's that one. I'm reading along. Oh, that's that one. But this is probably... wasn't this one of the singles, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the first one released after Dominus.
And I hate to say it, but I think those first 2 singles were my favorite songs.
Oh, yeah. I like this, too. It's a very... Like, lyrically, yeah. I mean, it's a continuation, I think, of the previous song, right? This idea of Judgment Day and coming like a thief in the night, like it's going to happen, and, Yeah,
which is interesting because the one before is, like, after these.
In a sense, yeah.
Because this one is, like, the horsemen have not been collected, we'll say. Collected. Killed. But, I don't know. Do we want to jump into the lyrics? Do you want to talk about parts you like? I think musically, this song is, I don't want to say heavier, but I'm going to say it. It's the heavier song on the album. I think it's like a lower tone, and the guitars are kind of darker and sadder, and even his screams just feel more brutal.
And you have like kind of like this electronic like intro, and there's pieces throughout that sound, I don't know, like Void-esque. War of Ages, or I don't know, like it's not bad, and it's not bad, like not bad at all. Like I really like it. It's different. It's not Dominus, right? It's not the typical War of Ages song. It's something a little bit new, almost video like game like ish. I don't know.
Doom.
Never played Doom.
Oh, you don't play games, yeah. So I get that too. There's another song later on that is like, so Mick Gordon is a very famous video game musician for like metal music, and he did the Doom soundtrack, and he's got just these chunky riffs with like electronic elements that are kind of in there, and there's a few songs that really sound like that on this one, but it's also kind of like the album, we have to have these like darker, gloomy,
it definitely it makes it feel dark for sure. Heavy for sure. I love it. It's an interesting piece about the literal meaning of Armageddon. Like I've never said that. I've never known that. But that's cool. I like to learn new things, because I would just assumed it was a name.
That's why I like this podcast. I get to do random like investigations on stuff. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I just thought like literally it was a meaning for the final battle, like the end, But that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's cool.
I'm sorry I blew your mind and like threw you off track.
Nah, you're fine, dude.
Yeah. So, how about I'm gonna go through the bowls and the lyrics that he talks about, and then I'm gonna talk about my favorite musical parts. But so it references the first bowl being poured out, which gives sores to anyone who bears the wrath, the mark of the beast. And he has that on there too. Upon all who cowered and chose to bear the mark, obliteration of my enemies. And that part of the song when he's like, oh my
beautiful.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Like that scream that he harnesses there, like I wished that was in like all of the songs like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like it's slower, and it's like, he's like angry and just saying obliteration of my enemies. The final battle has now begun. Right. First bowl is poured, and it's like, dude, these next bowls you don't even know. Like, oh, you got boils? Here we go. So the next one, this is very plague-like, Old Testament. The second and third bowl poured out turned all of the oceans and rivers to blood, killing everything in them, all sea life dead. And then it references the fifth bowl being poured out on the throne of the beast. And then it references the sixth bowl that leads to unclean spirits flowing from certain people's mouths that we won't get into end timesy who these people are, the horsemen and like the Antichrist and stuff like that. But basically their demonic souls get sucked out of them. I don't know. It's a weird bowl. But I don't think the other 2 bowls were referenced. But yeah, I think with that ambient sound in the background, it's kind of like a
Yeah.
kind of like a faraway choir that's kind of creepy.
Right.
Mixed with like these kinds of like pictures and images. I think it really adds to the song and makes it feel more Armageddon-y.
Yeah. I love the tone of the song, and I'm not usually like a guitar solo guy, and this is kind of a brief guitar solo, but I love the guitar solo and then how it just like goes to like nothing, and you can feel the build to the end just like coming up, and then it's just a huge breakdown. And the way that he screams during the breakdown, the outro, the visions piece,
Visions of doom. Yeah,
like
visions of judgment.
that part is awesome. I love that when bands have this just disgustingly heavy breakdown, and it's slowed down breakdown like to the part to where it's very almost rudimentary, right? And just screaming behind it, just angry. Awesome.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, the ending is so good.
So good.
It almost makes me wish that the ending came sooner.
Yeah, but it's all
lasted
building
more.
up to that.
Yeah. And so another part I really like about this song is there's this part where Jesus says, I come like a thief in the night, referencing what he said in the Gospels. I think or does it Peter say it? Well, anyway, in Revelations, the Lamb says, I come like a thief in the night. Surrender it all to me. I've come for what is mine. And I just, that the imagery is like, if you're not for me, here's all these bowls of wrath.
Yeah.
Pain and judgment. And he's like, hey, if you're with me, come here.
Yeah. Another song of warning of here's what's to come, the idea of like, you want to be on the right side of this. But yeah, no, brutal song. Love it. I do think it's one of my favorites on the album. I like that it's different, but it does like, I do think of it as their creative like expression in Void, how they kind of went that like sort of electronic and darker music. Like it feels like it would fit with that type of album.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Bloodlines adds like elemental
Yes.
fire and water,
And
as
earth.
like electronic pieces to it that kind of like makes it more modern sounding, gives it like a more modern metalcore.
Modern. That's it right there. It's modern metalcore. It's the what's your band you love?
I'm offended.
Come on,
I know.
dude.
Well, I don't know.
It's a band you love that I'm not really into.
Wage
I can't
War?
even think- yeah, Wage War. It's Wage War, man. It has like that modern feel to it. That's a good
Sure.
comparison.
Your comparison is good. Sure. To you.
To me, to a non-War of Ages fan. Like,
Wage War fan. You can't even say it. Wage War, War of Ages. I know. They're hard to
Yeah.
get them mixed up.
And I'm okay, let me preface that. Not that I'm not a fan, I just haven't really listened. I am a War of Ages fan. If I just said I'm not a War of Ages fan, I think I did. I am a War of Ages fan.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So that's the end of this one. Yeah. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
The next song is Death.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
So Death is one of the four horsemen.
Yep.
I think he's the last one we're going to talk about, right? So Death is the only one in the Bible who's given a name. On the rider of this horse is Death. And behind him follows Hades, which is referenced a lot in the Bible. Or some, Old Testament, they call it Sheol, which in the song it's called Sheol. And basically it's like I don't know, I picture like a portal of hell following behind this Santa Claus guy who's here to collect all the souls of people that didn't make it or kill people on the way and toss them in his Santa Claus bag. I say that because at the end of his run...
What do you mean Santa Claus?
So here, let me tell you.
Okay.
So, he's got like this portal thing following him, right? Hades, that is swallowing up all these people.
In your vision, in your view.
Yeah, in my head.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I mean, it does say that...
It's your picture of what you think.
Hades is swallowing up the dead, right? Following death. And it's just collecting all the bodies. And at the end of this, this Grim Reaper guy, Death, goes to God, to Jesus, with Hades, right? And says, here's all the people. And each person that is collected has to account for what they've done. And so in... here's my notes from reading the Bible on this snippet. But when judgment time comes, Death and Hades give up the dead who are in them, and they are judged, each one according to what they had done. And then Death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Which tons of songs have that awesome breakdown line. This is the second death. For Today has a sweet song, Dead to Rights, where they're like, this is the second death. Anyway. So that's kind of interesting to me, and this song kind of highlights that too. When he says never once sealing yourself in his blood, capital H. So he's like telling the horsemen, like, you never, yourself have not sealed yourself in Christ, and he's thrown into the lake of fire. But yeah, that's kind of my deal with Death and Hades. You seem confused. But did my Santa Claus bag thing mess you up?
So you think this is from the perspective of Death and Hades talking to God?
No. This is Leroy at that point singing to Hades. Well, and Death and Hades, right? Never
Really?
once sealing yourself in his blood. Burn like a fire, right? And the judgment, right, too, is all the people that are in Hades or Sheol or hell or whatever we're going to call this place. If they are found lacking, if Jesus does not forgive them of their sins and take them, that's where they're going to. And so this whole as we burn, we're burning is what this song is. What's up, dude?
That's not what I see. I get that, but I don't think it's talking.
You don't think he's talking to them? You think he's talking to the people who have been gathered up, saying you never once sealed yourself?
Yes, that's my thought. This is about death in general for the people that are dying. This is okay, so Judgment Day happens. What happens when you are now?
Okay, I get that. Yeah, I see that.
You're proven that you didn't believe. Here you go, and you are now. All these words that were said are now coming reality, ready to burn. And obviously it's all figurative, this idea of what hell is. But these people are now going to eternal suffering.
Yeah, and I do agree that 90% of the song is talking to those people.
Yeah.
But the breakdown where he goes, you are the angel of death.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a huge pause in the song, big breakdown, and he's screaming, you are the angel of death, standing at the feet of the fallen one, seizing every soul abandoned, right, that was forsaken.
Yeah.
Or, killed in his reign, where it says he could take over a fourth of the earth, is what Revelation says. Kill a fourth of the earth. Billions of people. And he said, and at the end of that, he says, never once sealing yourself, talking to the angel of death, sealing yourself in his blood. Now burn. So all the other stuff is judgment's here. You're all going to be judged according to what you have done. And, also the Grim Reaper, Angel of Death, Thanatos, Death, all of his names, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. I guess I just didn't think that the first time, but you're probably right. There's definitely that aspect to it. It's really, interesting thoughts. I do think it's really wild how happy the clean singing choruses as they're talking about as they burn.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like,
wishing you weren't there.
I don't think that's the feeling of what it's going to be, but like, yeah, just this idea, this picturing of like, what does it mean? What does eternal suffering look like? And the best description, like, that we and the writers of the Bible during the time, right, that were divinely inspired by God, obviously, right, like flames and fire and that gnashing of teeth, like that's a big piece of it. But like we don't fully know. Well, all we know is that it's absence of a God.
Yep.
Right.
No
and
grace. No mercy.
In the world we live in, like the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Like good things happen to people that are not believers, and like that's not gonna happen. You know, that's not gonna be the case. And it's crazy to really think about what that means. You know, because some people are like, oh, so just means I'm not gonna be with God. Okay, well, you're as close to God right now as you'll ever be.
Yep.
Which is insane to think about. Insane.
Yep. So I do think so. I know we're like kind of teasing about the chorus, but I like the lyrics of the chorus because it's kind of a I don't know. So he says bursting through the shadows, wishing you weren't there. So like you were in darkness, and all of a sudden someone's like burning, right? So there's light. Now you appear. Wishing you weren't there.
Yeah.
And it says the words have now become reality. Like now you're not there. Like I wish I wasn't here. Now you're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed kind of like a. Plus, it's like happy. It's not happy.
It's not happy.
I don't know. It feels like an anthem of gloom. I don't know how to say it. Like if you had to like write a song about like
realizing well,
yeah, super negative realization. But
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, lyrically, man, it's so hard. Like you read these and we're taking out pieces and trying to like say, okay, so here's where you take it from the Bible, because I mean really, like you've said this whole time, all these pieces they're straight up in the book of Revelation, and there's so many different types of interpretations that people have of every little thing, right? And in the end, like to me, and I'm just this guy, I'm like this application guy, that's like what I think. Okay, what does that mean to me right now? What should I do? And it's like these last three songs are the same to me. Like, this is a warning. Do not be this in the end. Like, there's going to be people like this in the end. But we need to make sure that we are fulfilling the Great Commission. Make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do. And thank God Almighty, we are on the side of Christ.
Yeah. And I think it's fun to, like, dig into this stuff and, like, try to, like, get an understanding and figure things out and like figure out what you believe, but I think it's dangerous when Revelations, the book of Revelation, becomes your gospel. When you're like, let me tell you the good news of Christ, you're going to burn. Repent and believe. Like, that is not the good news of Christ.
Right.
The good news is that he came, he was born of a virgin, fulfilling old prophecies, lived a life that we lived without sin perfectly,
right?
Was killed for our sins, a perfect sacrifice, perfectly completing the Old Testament, fulfilling the old law, and coming back to life, conquering death, right? That's the gospel. And when people like look at Revelation and they're like, like, this is the Bible, look what's coming, and they're standing on street corners with megaphones and telling people repent or perish for today. There's
a place for that, I think. But like, you're right.
I think Revelation is a revelation meant for believers, like telling us like, hey, snap out of it. Especially like the song coming up, like the letters to those churches that are like, you are this way, and Jesus is literally like, stop, repent, turn away, fix yourself. Like, I'm coming back.
Right, yeah. Like, I think that's a good piece of it. I think we can, as believers, look into almost everything. I mean, for sure, everything. You can look into the book of Revelation and say, I can see the gospel in it, right?
Sure,
like, I can see the gospel.
You can see the gospel in every book of the Bible.
Right. And so you look and you say, I see the gospel here. Now, is it the most, like, strategic, great way to go about it by saying, hey, lake of fire, better watch out. You're going to burn. unless you believe in Christ. Probably not, right? So you probably don't lead with that, but there is that. That's where you see the gospel. You see these, this judgment day, this Armageddon, this we are going to suffer, going to burn, going to be away from God, unless, right, you believe in God that died for your sins, right? I mean, that's like the unless. Like there's that piece of it. The gospel piece is there. And this book of Revelation has been around for and read thousands and distributed thousands of years now. And so like everybody, and I think it's good to live that way. The end is near. It is near.
Yeah.
You know, it's as near as it ever was, but like doesn't mean, who knows? It could be 3,000 years from now. It could be, who knows, tomorrow, thief in the night.
Yep.
But we as believers, we look at this and say there is a but, and we are a part of that. And if we,
a big but.
And if we didn't, right? And that's a reminder too, is like we deserve this. If this is our destination, if we don't believe in Christ, if we didn't have Christ die for our sins and pay for those, like that's where we would be, because we deserve to put the blame on ourselves.
I don't know though. Old Testament people bust out, show up in cities and they're like, "Hey, you're all gonna die if you don't turn your ways and follow God." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. Let me do that." So maybe that's there. Well, just getting back on, like, you can't just say, fire and brimstone. Like
there's a place for it. There's for sure a place. I'm sure, like, this is wild to think. I'm sure people have been saved by the street preachers, or they wouldn't do it. There's been people that have actually been saved by that. God has used... Or
it planted a seed.
Yeah. God has
even a
used
seed
that.
of, like, nuh-uh, let me go read what they're talking about. Oh, my gosh. Have you guys read this book, Revelation?
Right.
Who is this Jesus lamb that is, like... pouring out these bowls on us and
God uses everyone in a sense, right? Like God uses vessels of grace, he uses vessels of wrath, all for his purpose of his glory, right? And so even like street preachers that are preaching fire and brimstone, that has reached people. I just don't know if it's the most effective way, but like you said, there's instances in the Bible where, dude, it's time to turn or else. And they do.
So, I think that's the end of death, right?
That is the end of death.
Not the guy, but the song. The end of the song.
Which moves us to our next song,
which is
Laodicea.
So Laodicea. So in Revelations, there's a time where Jesus appears to John, and he says, "Hey, I want you to write some letters to some churches." And one of those churches is this one, Laodicea, a real place. Yeah. Turkey, right? I think it's Turkey.
Syria.
I think it's modern day Turkey, but I could be wrong. Whatever. Should have wrote it down. Darn it. So basically, Jesus is calling out this church that is filled with lukewarm believers. They are neither hot nor cold. And the long story short of this letter is God's going to spit you out. That you need to realize that you are wretched, you're pitiful, poor, blind, naked. Where they think that they are lacking in nothing. Right? Yeah. We're fine. We're comfortable here in America. I mean, in Laodicea. Right? And the song is telling them to repent. And, that it's a reminder that he, Jesus, rebukes and disciplines those that he loves. So this chorus of the song is like refined through fire. It's like this, it's kind of like a response to this letter to the church. And I don't know if it's like the church saying it, but The chorus is just like I really like that it's like this worship song that's like from the viewpoint of being lukewarm, refine me with fire.
Right. Yeah, the idea of complacency. I think Leroy even says complacency or complacent in the song lyrics.
Don't let me be complacent.
That is such a tough deal as a Christian, right? Because you think of the zeal as when you first started believing, right? Like you're reading your Bible all the time. Every conversation you have is that. Like I think of like when we were in college and we're doing Christian ministry, like our daily lives revolved around Christ.
Yeah.
And it's like really, it did. Every single thing we did felt like it was in some way for the kingdom. And the zeal that we had, like we were just all for it. Like we were going to change the world and all that stuff. And then like, obviously like your life changes, you graduate, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, all this stuff happens and your life changes. And you're still a Christian, you're raising a family, but it looks a lot different. And there's this idea of complacency that can creep in. Now, I don't know, like this is something like I think I've struggled with too, is like, am I complacent because I'm not doing what I used to, or am I just living my Christian walk a different way now because my life has changed, right? Like raising your kids to love God, right? To love their neighbors. That is absolutely what we are supposed to do as believers.
Yeah.
But you still have this like feeling of like, man,
do you think it'd be different? So, you were saved much later in life, closer to college. That might be why you had more of this feeling. But do you think it'd be different if you were saved now as a parent and you're like, whoa, Jesus, who's this guy? I'm reading the Bible every night. I got to tell my kids about this guy. All right. In college, you were like, man, every student here has the potential
100%
to hear the gospel, right? And so your perspective is a single person looking out at a multitude of people to give them just an inch deep of knowledge of the gospel before they disappear and you probably never see their face again, right? And it's like, look at the outreach we could have. But now your outreach is right in front of you.
Yep.
And they're not going anywhere. And they're with you every day. And they see you every day. And it's not a walk. They see your whole walk, right? They're not going to, it's not like you standing outside the pavilion or whatever, or outside of the pub, Pence Union building, not the bar for the listeners, like holding a banner, like come to Chi Alpha, check out our church group, come do church, where people just see you for that moment and go, oh, that guy's such a Christian. Ugh. Right. Instead your kids are like, oh my gosh, my dad's such a Christian.
But yeah, that's a good point. Cause then your kids see you in your life, and like, if you don't have grace for them or grace for your wife or like other people, like they see that, right? And so there's like all this idea of like you are trying to lead this example and create and raise kids that are going to be followers of Christ. And that hopefully is extreme, and hopefully, God willing. And that is so hard to do, but like that is our mission. That's who we're supposed to be. Now, I do think there is something to the time of being saved, though. I think you're right. Because, like, have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
The name is so familiar.
It's like this idea of, like, when you first, like, learn something, like, you're first saved, right? It's the idea of being, like, cage stage Calvinist for those that are Calvinists or whatever. But, like, the idea of, like, you first learn something, and, oh, my gosh, you're the most confident person at it. You have to tell the entire world at the expense of everyone else, But then you start, like, learning more and getting into it.
And realize you don't know everything.
There's way more to this. The complexities of the Christian walk is not as simple as 5 points. Mm-hmm. And you get further into it and you realize that maybe that's not the most important piece, and you quiet down, right? And then you start questioning, do I really even know? Because there's so much more to learn or to see. There's so many different avenues. Do I really even know? And so the people that are like know more are actually like less confident than the people that just learn it, right? And so it's a super weird deal.
I had this high school teacher who said, those that are the most vocal about a topic know the least about that topic.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think there's a big piece of that. Obviously, though, as you like get older, hopefully we keep learning and we get older, and then we like become that like, oh, we know and we're confident. but we're not going to be
We're going to
arrogant.
get on a podcast and listen to tell 5 people about what we know.
But we're not going to be arrogant about it, but the hard part is like people like confident people. So people are drawn to that loud person.
Well, yeah, it
sometimes.
sounds like authority.
Right. And so I think there's that piece of it too. Absolutely. If I was saved yesterday, I think I would be more like, oh my gosh, the zeal would be there because this is the first time.
Family Bible study every day. Let's go.
Right. And then you don't see any danger in that when there is danger in that. Like, obviously, a family Bible study is not dangerous, but to be legalistic and being like, here's what we're going to do forever, that could be an issue, If you just go on, like, the knowledge piece of Christ without the love, like, there's obviously going to be issue. And so I think maybe that's a big piece of why sometimes I think I'm complacent. But it's definitely a warning that it's comfortable where we are sometimes.
Yeah, and so going back to the song with the lyrics and kind of with what you're hitting on, I know we've talked about this a lot with other bands and other songs and other episodes and stuff, but there's that line in the song where he says, emotionless while watching the world transform.
Gosh.
Yeah. Like, let's say it's end times and we see all this stuff happening and we're just like, meh, I'm saved. Or so I think, I'm lukewarm. I am neither horrified nor excited that I get to see my king. I'm just like emotionless. That's right.
Yeah.
And he says reveals the emptiness inside us before the storm.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have no emotion on all these changes happening. The world is breaking around you. In the news today, you're just like, oh yeah, Israel. Yeah, that sucks. They kidnapped a bunch of plain civilians. Oh, and now they're retaliating and killing innocent people. Oh, okay, whatever. I feel nothing. Right.
Dude,
like,
that's a dangerous spot
are
to
you
be.
lukewarm? Like, and I understand like the lukewarm part is not feelings for the other world, outside world. It's for your faith in God but with that comes love for others.
Yeah.
And when you see others hurting and you feel nothing, I don't know.
Dude,
check your heart, bro. Like, I don't know what to say.
We might edit this out, but like, okay, so this is my thoughts on
I'm definitely keeping it.
Israeli-Palestinian stuff right now. Hamas, terrible terrorist organization. Not anybody, like, for years they've been anti-Semitic and anti-women and stuff like that, right? Like, extreme Islam.
Sure. Terrorist group. Mm-hmm.
Terrorist group. And they killed 1,400 innocent civilians. Breaks my heart, terrifies me. Absolutely scary.
Yeah, just showed up, parachuted in.
The things that happened, it's so barbaric. It blows my mind and it hurts my heart. And so like that feeling and knowing that like, yes, the people that should pay that did that, like there should be justice for those that got their lives taken. But then there's collateral of innocent kids that are being killed, and partly on like Hamas's fault, but like there's innocent kids being killed. Yes. And if like you can't look at both sides, not both sides, like there's obviously a right and a wrong, but if you can't look at the situation and feel pain for innocent lives, then I think there's something to be said about complacency. Like we have to look at this and say, man, there's so much hurt in this world. We got to figure this thing out. Like, so sad. So sad.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk and complain. I'm on the same page as you. I know that there's like I really hope Israel just like wipes out the Hamas group and that it's not a problem. But the fact that they're telling people in America, they're telling them to like kidnap Jews here and attack here in the States. And it's like, no.
We've seen both already in the United States. We've seen anti-Semitic attacks and we've seen anti-Muslim attacks just in the United States. Right. And then you see like protests for both sides and there's like zero sympathy for the other way. Like, okay, like we need to be like empathetic of Palestinian children that are dying, but we also need to realize there were 1,400 innocent civilians that were specifically targeted. Right? Like that's just so crazy. Like
they weren't trying to like stop the government. They weren't trying to hurt their military or their power. It was innocent people in the night. Or early morning, right?
Yeah, day. They're somewhere at a music festival.
Oh, yeah, just... Ugh.
Yeah, and so it's just, like, so crazy. And you look at that, and I think from the perspective of what we're supposed to look at as Christians, we look at it and we say, oh, my goodness, like, innocent civilian life should not perish.
It's right? That red horseman, dude.
And 100%. And it's like you look at what's happening, and you're like, man, this is not right. And then just bigger picture outside of that too. Like there's just so many things that go in this world. You're like, that is pure evil. What is happening?
Yep.
But yeah.
So I'm gonna reel this back.
Yeah, reel it back in.
Going back to the song, changing gears.
Yeah.
So I really like the part where where Jesus says, well, it's Jesus's line, but obviously he's not the one talking. But in the song where it kind of like cuts out, and in the background you hear him say like, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Can you hear my voice?" And that's kind of like, well, yeah, it builds to that chorus where it's kind of like that worship song where it's like, Spirit come, refine through fire, never-ending hope in times of darkness. Holy Spirit come. And I think it's just an awesome like
anthem.
Yeah,
Feels
cry
like
out
that
an anthem of like, help me not be like this. Change me. Yeah,
so good. I love the chorus, and I don't know. I think it is because it's very like this anthem, like sing along, like we're asking for this. Like it's worshipful, right? It seems like it's almost congregational, and I love it. But my favorite part of the song, Gary, is like the end, the breakdown. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's heavy. It's gnarly.
Unleash the fire within thing, and then that whole outro. Yeah,
just the whole outro. It's really good. And this is one of those songs where you could take it out of this album and you wouldn't be like, oh, it's about Revelation. Like, this is really, it just feels, like a War of Ages, like Christian living song, you know, like the walk of Christ, what it means to be a Christian. And so I really love that they took it and took the church of Laodicea and made it like this. It's so cool.
Yeah.
My favorite song on the album, by far.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Even though you spent most of the time talking about Israel and...
that's just like current events, man.
Yeah, I think War of Ages does a good job at taking a thing that's like, oh, this is scary, and turning it into like we will overcome, we will defeat this, we will conquer, we will win. Especially like from the perspective of if you are a Laodicean and you're like, oh, am I lukewarm? And it's like this prayer that's like, Holy Spirit come, refine me. Yeah. And it's like this ending of like this group shout, this like, we will overcome, we will make this. Like, we will not be lukewarm, we will make a difference.
I had this one friend tell me a long time ago. This is like in high school, I think even. He was like always like the healthy guy. He was like in middle school. He was pretty big and lost weight in high school. And his like big thing was like, if you are thinking about what you're eating, if you're just like thinking about it like all the time, like you're gonna eat better. Even if you don't eat great all the time, you're thinking about, oh man, I probably shouldn't do that. I probably shouldn't eat that. You're gonna eat better. And it's the same thing as if you like are constantly thinking about, am I being complacent in my life? You're going to be less complacent, right? Like if you are actually evaluating yourself and thinking about what you're doing, like you're going to be better. Even if it's not like that crazy, like the complacency will be less if you're actually looking at, man, I could have done this today or I should have done that. Tomorrow's going to be a better day, And that's kind of, I think, what we have to do. We have to, like the chorus says, be refined.
Yeah. I know we've talked about this song a long time, but I have a thing to add. So my pastor has this analogy. He was a seer instructor, and he would tell people that, when you're traveling and all you have is a compass, if you only look at that compass once, we'll say this is your first time looking at the Bible. North is that way. And you never look at your compass again. You're going to be so far off your mark.
Yeah.
The point is, you need to keep checking your compass. Am I pointing north? Is this the way I'm supposed to be going? And, that's the same as looking at your Bible and, like, reading it and understanding and reorienting yourself north. Like, I need to keep going this direction. If you go too long, you're going to end up going, like, even if you're off by a little bit, after a long time, you're a long ways off the mark. You are not going to get to your destination.
Yep.
But anyway.
That's sweet. And I think that's...
Thanks, Pastor Miles, for the...
This talk has caused us to think about ourselves. Like, I mean, that's what it is. So, like, obviously, you look at it, you evaluate yourself, you read your Bible, you talk about your life. Like, that's it, man. That's like the Christian walk. That's right there.
Yep.
Constantly getting better and becoming more like Christ. Well, I think we move on to the last song. The next song we're going to do is Misery.
Reaching out for comfort.
So the last song of the album, I really like it. This might be my number 3, number 4. You know, you got.
You've got a lot of number 3s.
I have a top 3, and I think this one might wedge in there, but it's definitely
fits in there,
up there. And I think I like it because it's very different. In fact, the other day I was listening to this album, and Jen was walking by. It was when I got the vinyl, and I was playing it in the house, and she's like, War of Ages does clean vocals? And I was like, on this song they do. But yeah, like most of this song is clean vocals.
Most, for sure.
But, you know, so this song is like the perspective, or it's about those who are lost. Those who were taken by the 4 horsemen, who were turned away from Jesus, and this is it. You know, it's like they're living a nightmare. And I think that kind of... I mean, so the music, you know, it has more clean singing, but it's not happy. It's like musically and screaming, there's a lot of like doom and gloom kind of stuff. But like the clean singing is like weary, you know, kind of regret feeling. There's a part that I really, really love, and we'll get to it. But normally I'd say like the chorus was just kind of like too samey. But because of the part that I super like the part that I really like, wouldn't be possible. You already know what I'm talking about. Without the chorus repeated the way it is. But the I don't know, and the lyrics are just very, I don't know, they just hit you hard, you know. You have Leroy screaming stuff like, you know, you wish for death, but you can't have it. You know, only a fool would think he can escape this. And then you have the clean singing that's kind of like a, you know, running through the fire, wishing it was over. Truly seeking death, never finding it. Believing in something, receiving nothing.
Like, I want to sing along to this, but then I'm like... Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think there's some really cool stuff. I was joking with Tyler right before we pressed record today about how the intro of it sounds like a Nickelback intro, because he got this, like, you know, that album with the muscle car on it. I can't think of anything, but that era of Nickelback, you know.
Heavy, couple like distorted riff,
chunky,
and then
catchy, groovy, and then
No, I really do also enjoy this style. Like, if there was a band that just did this and had this like style of singing and the way that it's done, I'd be on board. I really like it. It's really easy to follow along to and sing to. I don't want that to come off as like a negative thing, but like, for me, like, to follow along with the cleans, it's really a register that's not like way out of this world. You know what I mean? And it's still like super groovy, and there's some heavy pieces to it. But man, this is just talking about like, this is the end of the album. This is it. Like, this is misery forever. Ever. That's it. This is the eternal suffering. It's like, this isn't a happy ending to the song, to the album.
Tell me,
at
War
all.
of Ages, they're like, hey guys, we listen to All Consuming Podcasts. Tyler says he loves misery. If we could just do a whole album like that, he thinks we'd be great.
You can't call yourself War of Ages and do that, though. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could.
I've gathered a few thoughts, but
Devil Wears Prada's done it. They changed, not to this sound, but they did it.
Sure,
they changed their sound. You know, I mean, I think bands can do it, but then you're gonna have that piece of the fan base.
Not everyone's like, moving along with you. Yep.
Right. It feels newer. It feels newish.
So
yeah,
I think
like it just feels like something
there's
different.
A few bands that I could think of that kind of do this, but not in this genre. So like Idle Threat.
100%.
They got these heavy pieces.
Agreed.
They have these clean singing pieces. They mix the two pretty well, just not metal, right? But something's been bothering me since we started talking. You know that guitar solo that's kind of weird. Like a minute in, it's just like what is this?
Kind of out of nowhere.
And you know what it sounds like? It sounds like Becoming the Archetype's new album.
There's a couple pieces that feel like Becoming the Archetype in this song. That's funny that you say that, because I was actually thinking that.
So let's get to the part that I really like. So there's this. I actually don't know what it is. It's a bridge, right? But it's just kind of more chill. It has like a higher guitar kind of playing in the background. I'm trying to remember. But it builds to like this part where Leroy just comes in and he's like, rise as the trumpet sound, you know?
Oh yeah.
You hit the ground. Can you feel it now? Right. And he says it twice, and that's such an angry, he's got a hard bite in that scream, and it's just like, oh man, here we go. We're going to this is going to be nuts. And then everything cuts out, and it's the most gentle singing.
Rise, rise as the trumpet sounds. You hit the ground, can you feel it now? Rise, rise as the trumpet sounds. You hit the ground, can you feel it now? Running through the fire, wishing it was over now. Truly seeking death, never finding it. Believing in something, receiving nothing. Running through the fire, wishing it was over now. Truly seeking death,
I love it. Love that.
Like, it's not like the soft singing of the chorus the whole time. Like, we're talking like, don't sing too loud.
But
Stay as quiet as you can.
But
Be
it's
gentle.
like the things he's saying though, like
Running
You know,
through
when
the
you think
fire.
of going to our boys in Idle Threat, they're singing about in the garden. You know, like Peter, like figuring stuff out. You know, and you know, this is like
yeah.
hell.
Yeah,
Like,
but I think it's from a perspective of like you've like just complete failure, complete loss, complete
over.
Yeah, it's
What are you gonna
done.
do?
And so he's like,
Yeah.
it's like the final chorus. He's just super gently singing the running through the fire, like for the last time, wishing it was over now, like super soft, you know? I don't know, it just hits so good. And just the way it ends like that, I'm like, oh man. Like that song and how it ends makes me hit repeat on the album.
100%.
Like,
I agree.
It's so good.
And so we end this and say this is a concept album, right?
For sure.
Like start to finish, this is basically taking us through judgment.
End times, big
End
quotes.
times,
Yeah.
the judgment of mankind, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting journey that you take, and how War of Ages brings you through it. But at the end, it's like so like misery is a really good word for it, because it is miserable.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's interesting because it's a super repetitive song, which makes you think like day in, day out, constantly wishing this was over. Never.
Yep.
You know? So really cool way to end it. And it's a really cool album. Definitely one of my favorite War of Ages albums. And
Yeah, I think so too. I feel like this one had a clear image, a story to tell, you know,
Yeah.
all the way through. And it's like, it's not like such a thick concept album that you have to listen to the songs in order, because I don't think they're really in order anyway, but like they don't tie into each other, you know, they're very standalone songs. And yeah, I really enjoy this album. I will say it might be one of my favorite War of Ages albums. I mean, my favorite ones are like Arise and Conquer and Before.
Oof, yeah.
Like, I love their really early stuff, and I feel like they touched on that here.
Definitely some pieces of early metalcore. I agree.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, those are my favorite War of Ages. Every release that they've ever released, I'm like, oh, this is good. This is good. And I always recommend it to people, especially Christians looking for like that heavier music. And I'm like, this might be too heavy for you, but here, try these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoy this album, and I hope, you know, the most success on this release. I mean, I know they're not touring it and stuff, but from what I've seen online, it's like being received really well. But
Sweet. Cool, man. Well, I'm excited to keep listening, and I'm excited for what War of Ages continues to do, because 10 albums, dude, like that's wild.
so we're probably gonna do a album of the year in January or something.
Yeah.
Kind of episode. You think this will be on your list?
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, I think it'll be on mine.
Like fighting for top spots for sure, I think.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you like what we're doing and you want to support us, become a patron. Buy us a cup of coffee on there. You know, we have all the social medias. Well, we don't have all of them. We have a lot of them. Instagram and Facebook are our main two. You know, we have a Discord server where people can hop on. It's not like we post podcast stuff. It's more of a community group,
Right.
Where bands and just fans, whatever, we all just join together and kind of have an awesome community together on that. Yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Sweet.
They do you for listening.